Play a little fact or fiction. Louis Riddick, let's start in the AFC North. Schefter was just talking about Ja'Marr Chase, who, while they're not calling it a hold-in, for all intents and purposes, is holding in. If I said he should play this year, even if he doesn't get a new deal, would that be fact or fiction?
That's fiction. He shouldn't play this year. Look, Ja'Marr Chase is scheduled to make $4.8 million this year. That's 54th among all wide receivers in the NFL, despite the fact that since he entered the league in 2021, he scored the second most number of receiving touchdowns. His production has far exceeded what he's scheduled to make this year. I'd be holding in too, drinking a lot of Gatorade, watching practice.
Yeah, I mean, you said it earlier this morning, Schefter, that he basically has not partaken in practice at all this offseason, at any of the different junctures, including now that he could. They're not calling it a hold-in, but for all intents and purposes, it doesn't matter what you call it. That's what's happening. So is there an end in sight to this one? We're talking about how easy it should be to make a deal for C.D. Lamb. Ja'Marr Chase, I would argue, is as good as any receiver and as valuable as any receiver in the NFL.
I would say that it's interesting because if you listen to Mike Brown talk right at the start of training camp, he said, and these are his words, the die has been cast, that the time to do these deals is in the offseason, and he thought, in his opinion, that it will wait till next offseason. I don't know that that's the case. Again, if he's not on the field now, why is he going to change his mind? What's going to force him to step on the football field? Louis, you mentioned 4.8. 3.8 of that was a roster bonus that's already been paid. $1 million in base salary. So he would be making $1 million in base salary to step onto the football field. When there are other receivers making upwards of $30+ million a year, are you risking your future for $1 million when there's all that money that's out there?
So where does this go, Bart? I mean, and what does it mean for them? Because this is a team with Burrow back healthy that people are saying, well, they're the biggest threat, or certainly among the biggest threats to Kansas City.
Yeah, you look at Cincinnati with what's going on with T. Higgins. T. Higgins is a one-year rental, so their best opportunity to win the Super Bowl is this year with the weapons that they have. They already lost Tyler Boyd in the offseason. You know, they're trying and win, while they're, after they pay their quarterback. But it's setting a precedent, though, right? Because I believe Ja'Marr Chase came in before or after. I don't know if he came in after Justin Jefferson.
A year after.
So Jefferson just got paid. He's been the best quarterback, the best wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers. So now they're going to start forcing these guys to wait because now they're getting paid earlier and earlier. Because with your philosophy, then Garrett Wilson next year should be asking for a contract extension after year 3. The problem is with these quarterbacks making these big salaries, it really pushes the timeline for a lot of other guys. But that's where we're at in this environment.
And if you're the Bengals, you're looking at it and you're saying, Ja'Marr Chase has this year and he's got next year, the 5th-year option. So we have him under contract for 2 years. Why should we, the Bengals, pay him now?
Say that again, the Bengals and their history.
Well, I'm just telling you what they're saying and thinking. Why should we have to pay him now when he's got 2 years left? You're Ja'Marr Chase. You're looking at these other receivers, and you see this big money going around. It creates an interesting situation here.
Yeah, the dynamic is one where you understand both sides' positions on it. There is also a way of looking at it, I might think, that if we look at where the TV money is coming and everything, these prices are only going to go up. So you signed Ja'Marr Chase for $34 million right now. 2 years from now, that might actually wind up looking like a bargain if I'm Cincinnati.
Well, that's what the Bears just did. DJ Moore had 2 years left, and they gave him that extension.
If we have no idea how this is going to play out, but if Brandon Ayuk is not on the 49ers this year, if he's not a part of their team, does that take them, in your view, out of being the Super Bowl favorite?
Yeah, I think it does. I think because of the fact that, look, and this is a bigger picture issue here. Wide receiver, this is a great debate. Wide receiver, to me, has continued to increase in terms of its importance to an overall football team's success, not just at the NFL level, at the college level, at every level. Okay, and Brandon Ayuk, with the explosive playmaking ability that he has, the ability to change the tenor of a game with one play, he's critical. He's critical. Look, I understand how much we love Christian McCaffrey. I understand how much we love George Kittle. I understand how much we love Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel and Fred Warner and every other football player on this football team. But Brandon Ayuk is at a plus 15, plus 18 yards per play playmaker. That's what the NFL lives on. Explosive plays. You take him out of that. Look, I like Ricky Pearsall, their first-round pick out of Florida, as much as anyone. I like Jacob Cowing, I believe, their fourth-round pick out of Arizona, as much as anyone at wide receiver. They ain't Brandon Ayuk. So if he's not on this football team, Brock Purdy's going, okay, wait a second now. What's the downfield passing game look like? You know, Kyle Shanahan's going, look, do you expect us to take the ball and drive it 8, 9, 10, 11 plays every single time we have the football? That's what a defensive coordinator wants you to try and do. He wants you to go the long, difficult way. Brandon Ayuk goes, hey, guess what? Throw it to me. I can change it in one snap for you. That's why these guys want their money. That's why they think of themselves as saying, hey, after the quarterback, we're as important as anybody on the roster. And that includes you pass rushers. I'm not saying I wholeheartedly agree with it, but it's becoming a prevailing opinion, and I understand why.
Well, good, Bart. You're on this camera. Good.
I mean, we haven't seen any Super Bowl champions with these premier wide receivers yet. That's the problem. They haven't won one that was led by their receiver, and that's the issue. Brandon Ayuk, listen, I think they'll find different ways to win. He's a guy that they can win with, but I think they have a plan without him as well.
Like they're the first team ever to hold the lead in overtime in the Super Bowl and lose. Right? You can't get closer to winning a championship without doing it than they did last year. So, I mean, they got awful close to doing it with Ayuk.
And they wouldn't have been there were it not for the contributions that he made in the NFC Championship game against Detroit, catching the long pass off the helmet and then catching the touchdown that put them in position to get to the Super Bowl. But again, to your point, Bart, if we look at the Chiefs, rather than pay Tyreek Hill $30+ million, they moved on from him and brought in other receivers. What's that?
But Adam.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, and I know I have a little bit of delay here, and that bugs
it's okay.
Mess at everyone. But listen, you know that Brett tried hard, that being Brett Veach, the general manager of the Chiefs, he tried hard to re-sign Tyreek. They were up there. Their offer was very competitive to Tyreek. It was very competitive. Tyreek wanted to leave. They didn't just go, hey, Tyreek, go ahead and go. They tried to re-sign him. They just were at some point they were like, look, this is just enough. We're getting the feeling that he wants to go somewhere else, so he's going to go somewhere else. And you know what? I don't think it's fair to compare any team to what Kansas City is doing because they have the greatest quarterback, arguably, in the history of the game. So they have a cushion that no other team has when it comes to that wide receiver position.
Let me get one more thing in because I really wanted to get this here. And we're going to give this one to Dan Orlovsky because he was here yesterday and we were talking about the battle between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh yesterday, or Monday, I should say, was the first padded practice that team had. And Dan, was suggesting that if the Steelers go with Fields, they may look like another team in their division who's had an awful lot of success. Listen.
If Arthur Smith, who's their new offensive coordinator, will use more designed quarterback runs, it's Justin Fields. Because that's the correlation for me, Greeny, is we could become the Ravens. The Pittsburgh Steelers can lead the NFL in rushing this season. If you're the Steelers, let's live in this hypothetical world.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's your starting quarterback. You're going to win 10 games. You're going to be good. Then you have to decide 6 or 8 months from now, am I going to pay Russell Wilson at 36 years old $1 gajillion? For what? Good? Or do I want to become the Baltimore Ravens?
No one knows the Baltimore Ravens better than the man to my left. Could they be that with Justin Fields?
Well, I've been explaining this probably on my radio show probably for the last month about, you talk about Justin Fields and how he can affect the backside linebacker and the backside defensive end. Remember the Greg Roman Baltimore Ravens where they led the league in rushing and they just pounded and limited the possessions as well. And traditionally, that's how the Steelers want to play. They've invested heavily in this offensive line the last couple of years. First-round draft pick this year, Broderick Jones last year, going to get the offensive guard from the Philadelphia Eagles. They can play ground and pound and play keep away. And, Justin Fields is a quarterback that ran for 1,100 yards. And the difference between what this version would be is that they have a true number one wide receiver on the outside when Lamar Jackson didn't have that. They have an outstanding defense that they can play complementary football. That's why I believe that if they're able to develop Justin Fields in that run game, they can maybe save some jobs because the Kenny Pickett draft pick was a disaster. This is how you fix it, by going out and playing the way that we are accustomed to the Pittsburgh Steelers playing.
Look, it's the San Francisco model, right? San Francisco took a quarterback super high, missed, couldn't have been a bigger disaster. Boom, they hit on Mr. Irrelevant. The Steelers miss on a first-round pick with Kenny Pickett, but now you trade a sixth-round pick, and if Justin winds up working out, then it works. Are you buying the analogy, Lewis, that with Justin Fields, they could be Lamar-esque?
Esque is the key. Yeah, they could be, okay? They want to bully people up front. Mike Tomlin said as such. And he drafted this year in order to be able to do that. And Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, along with Justin, if he is the quarterback, that's a heck of a threat running the football with some of the horses they got coming off the line of scrimmage. But I don't think they're trying to just be a regular season team. They're not just trying to win 11 games, maybe win the division, maybe make a wild card, and then just get into the playoffs and then get stymied because they're a very between the tackles, tight formations, running football team. I know this, Arthur Smith loves Justin's all-around potential. He loves what he can do throwing the football. He believes the run game will open up the pass game. It'll make it easier. He can have maybe that kind of renaissance in his career, although he's so young in his career, the same way that Ryan Tannehill had the renaissance in his career when he was in Tennessee, when he took over for Marcus Mariota.